This is Dream Power Radio, the place where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, certified dream life coach, Debbie Spector-Weissman. This is the place where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams, and how you can use them to make the internal shift to a life you love and rediscover the truth of who you really are. And speaking about who you are, let's say you're smart, you're educated, you work hard, and yet you haven't achieved the success you dreamed about. Maybe it's difficulty in closing that important deal that you believe is going to make a difference. Or maybe it's continually being passed over for a promotion, no matter how hard you try. Maybe you find yourself so discouraged that you think it's time to give up, go back to school, or perhaps seek a different career. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. The key to success may have nothing to do with your educational level or your years in business. But with a little tweaking, it's possible that you can transform yourself into a money-making machine that attracts all the success you want. We're going to find out how with my guest, business advisor, entrepreneur, and best-selling author, Nicky Billou. Through his masterminds and other educational programs, Nicky has helped some of the most successful entrepreneurs in his native Canada boost their incomes to levels they never would have imagined. Nicky has written several best-selling books, including Finish Line Thinking, How to Think and Win Like a Champion, and he hosts the Thought Leader Revolution podcast. Welcome to Dream Power Radio, Nicky.
Thank you, Debbie. Great to be here. Real honor.
Oh, well, I'm excited to be talking about this because I usually don't talk specifically about business, but I think your take on it will be a really good help to my audience. So I want to start with this, though. Nicky, why are you so passionate about helping people reach success in their business?
Well, let me tell you my backstory because I think that'll illustrate it very powerfully. I'm originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. And when I was 11 years old, my world got turned upside down because the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran. And my late father, God rest his soul, he could see the writing on the wall that this wasn't going to be a great place for him to raise his Christian family anymore. So what he did is he made a plan and he got us out of Iran and he settled us where I now live, which is in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And looking back, it was the greatest thing that he did for our family. He changed the trajectory of our family's legacy. But at the time, I was a kid. I was leaving my home. I was leaving my friends. It wasn't the greatest thing in the world. And right now, I'm so grateful to live in a free country. You know, a lot of people that have been born in the West don't understand how precious freedom really is and how rare it is. It doesn't exist everywhere. And there's forces that are trying to reduce our freedom of speech and other freedoms. And I think we all need to stand up and stand tall for those rights, because those rights are what make this great part of the world oh so special. You know, and my father, he was a champion for freedom, for free expression and free enterprise. And that's why he brought us to Canada and the West. And I've become that as well. My dad, he was the greatest man I've ever known. He was an uplifter of human beings. If you knew him and you were looking for work, he'd help you find a job. If you knew him in business, he'd help you get your business off the ground. And you were trying to buy a car or a house or an apartment, and you didn't quite have enough money, he'd top you up so you could buy that car, that house, that apartment. Who does that, Debbie? Who? You know? Well, the late, great Napoleon Billou, for one. And why would he do that? Well, first of all, he was a devout Christian. He believed that he'd been blessed by God, and it was his duty to share those blessings with others. But secondly, he did it because he could. He was successful. He had the wherewithal to be able to make a difference for people. And to me, every entrepreneur is potentially someone like my father, an uplifter of humanity, a creator of jobs, somebody who makes our world a better place. I know that Hollywood likes to paint entrepreneurs in a bad light and saying they're all bad, they're all evil, but nothing could be further from the truth. The entrepreneurs I know, they're the kindest, most loving, most generous people in our society. They're the ones who have the courage to go out there and make their dreams come true. And to me, the bedrock of our society are, you know, military first responder types who put their lives on the line to make sure that we get to live in a free and civilized society. And then the entrepreneurs who take those blessings of liberty and put them into action to create something, to create a vision, to create jobs, to create a beautiful society for the rest of us. And that's what makes me passionate about helping entrepreneurs.
I think entrepreneurs are the backbone of business. I mean, most people in the United States, most businesses in the United States are small businesses, and they were started up by individuals who were able to make them grow and, grow the economy as well. But just as an aside, before we go further with that, I just wanted to mention that a lot of the most successful entrepreneurs that I know just happen to be Iranian immigrants. So I'm wondering, is there something
Wow, there
about
you go.
that that
That's
causes
pretty
that
great.
drive in you?
Well, I don't know. My dad was an entrepreneur, and my dad was somebody who really took the time to impart a lot of lessons to me. And there's a lot of success in better value attainment. My father was somebody who really passed on a lot of lessons and messages to me. And those lessons and messages were about working hard, going after my dreams, and being of service to other people. And there's a lot of great Iranian entrepreneurs that have become famous. Patrick Bet David of Valuetainment, man, he's built one of the biggest media companies around. And I think that's totally fantastic.
Well, talking about entrepreneurs, what is the biggest impediment that holds entrepreneurs back?
So it depends on what their phase of business is. If they're a smaller company, and by that I mean they're under $1 million a year in sales, well, their biggest impediment is making sure that their business is a going concern, right? And that's one of the things that I'm really keen on helping entrepreneurs in that phase with, is because a lot of these folks don't have necessarily a business background. They don't understand things like sales and marketing and balance sheets and income statements. They don't understand hiring and firing. They don't understand systems and processes. So part of what we do is we give these folks a bit of an MBA, and we teach them about all that, because that'll make it easier for them to actually be able to grow their business. One of the key things a lot of people have issues with is sales. I don't want to be seen as pushy. I don't want to be one of those guys. I don't want to be one of those gals, one of those, pushy salespeople. No. They've got a horrible attitude towards sales. And as a result, they don't go after business they should be going after. Like, I know so many coaches, for example, who just back away from going after business because of that mentality. No, I'm not one of those people. I don't push. Oh, okay. You don't push. Got it. Does that mean that you won't go after business? Is that like an excuse for not going after business, which in a lot of cases it is? And you know what's bad about that is somebody who really could use their help won't get their help. And instead, some charlatan marketer will come in who has no compunction about going after business, scoops up that customer, and doesn't deliver for them. Think about that. That's bad for everybody. That's bad for the business owner who didn't get the sale because their business goes down. It's bad for the customer because they don't get a good, honorable person helping them. It's even bad for the charlatan because what goes around comes around, and they're going to get their comeuppance. The sum total of goodness in the world goes down. So one of the things I really got excited about doing is helping people reframe selling to service. Nobody wants to be sold. Debbie, you don't want to be sold. I don't want to be sold. But don't you love being served by a caring human being? So that's one of the things that we've really helped focus on for smaller business owners. And these are folks under $1 million a year in sales. And we've been able to help them double, triple, quadruple, fivefold their business just from reframing selling to service.
One of the things when I first became a Dream Life coach, I had to deal with that because I was one of those people. I didn't consider myself a salesperson, but I was taught heart-based marketing. Is that something that you ascribe to?
Yeah, we created a designation called Heart Leadership, which is leading from the heart in business. I'm really big on thought leadership. I think that one of the things that allows you to stand out is being seen as the go-to authority, the thought leader, the industry thought leader in your area. But that's not enough. You got to also be known for being somebody who cares about your fellow man and woman. And that's what heart leadership is all about. It's leading from the heart.
Okay, could you go into being a thought leader a little bit more and explain exactly what you mean by being a thought leader?
Well, there's a really neat way to do that in business by drawing a contrast between two iconic American computer companies. One is called Dell Computer, and the other is Apple Computers. And in 1998, they were both successful companies. Apple was doing 5.9 billion a year in business at that time, and Dell was doing 12.6 billion a year in business at that time. And that was the year Steve Jobs came back to Apple. Now, Michael Dell, who founded Dell, he led Dell. Now, Steve Jobs put himself out there, started speaking about issues that didn't always necessarily have to do with Apple and selling Apple products, but had to do about creating a vision for a better world, a better business community. And Michael Dell didn't. Michael Dell just sold computers. Fast forward 25 years, and 2023 today, Dell has grown tremendously. It's a $101 billion a year company. But Apple has become the most valuable company in the world, and it's a $394 billion a year company. It's almost 4 times the size of Dell, and it was less than half the size of Dell back in 1998. So the amount of growth that Apple has experienced is absolutely mind-blowing. Why? Well, it's in large part because Steve Jobs made a conscious decision to put himself out there as an industry thought leader, an innovator, a thinker about issues that matter when it comes to innovation in the technology space. And Michael Dell didn't. Michael Dell was content to create computers that were great and did good work and to sell them in the way that Dell sold them. They had a nice sales strategy for selling them. That's the difference between an industry thought leader, Steve Jobs, and Michael Dell, which most people would go, who? Who's Michael Dell? They've heard of Dell Computers, but they've never heard of Michael Dell. But tell me, how many people have heard of Steve Jobs?
Yeah.
Almost everybody. And he's been dead for almost 12 years. You think about this. This strategy of thought leadership was so successful for him that he's been dead for almost 12 years. Now let's bring it over to a coach as an example.
I was going to ask you about that because not everybody would also say that Steve Jobs was a visionary, and not everybody who is successful could also be defined as a visionary. So tell me.
Yeah, but he wanted to be a visionary. That's it. So let's say you're a coach, and let's say that you're one of these folks who calls himself or herself a life coach. So you're a life coach. I'll coach you on anything to do with your life. And let's say you can help people with relationships, with business, with health issues, with mindset issues. And let's say you're really good at it and you get results. The average life coach in America makes $52,000 a year. That's the average life coach in America. Now, let's say there's another person who is also a coach, and maybe they started off as a life coach, but that person, she says, no, I'm not going to be a life coach. I'm super interested in anything and everything to do with relationships. I'm keen on speaking about relationships and relationships between men and women in particular that are romantically involved. And I'm going to talk about relationships, and I'm going to talk about what makes for a successful relationship, what makes for a relationship that's in crisis. And I'm going to just talk about, write about, speak about, create videos, do books, all of this. I am the relationship gal. Who do you think's going to do better as a coach? Well, the relationship coach is, because she's going to be seen as somebody who has authority, thought leadership, industry level expertise in the arena of relationships. And so when people are dealing with relationship issues, they're going to want to listen to this person. They're not going to want to listen to the other person who's just a general life coach. So the average thought leader, in our experience, when we work with a thought leader who's a coach or a consultant, they're able to earn close to $500,000 a year as a thought leader versus just a general life coach. You think about that. The average coach makes $52,000 a year. The average thought leader who does coaching earns $500,000 a year. Which would you rather be if you're in business as a coach?
Oh, there's no question. There's no question about that. But on that note, we are going to take a short break. We are speaking about success in entrepreneurship with Nicky Billou, and we'll be right back. If you're not pleased with the trajectory of your life, the time to begin your own personal transformation is now, and your dreams can help pave the way. How? By tapping into your unvoiced confidence. What is unvoiced confidence, you say? It's the acceptance of your abilities and qualities. It's a state of mind coming from liking and even loving yourself, and feeling free to say or do anything you want without concern for the judgment of others. You were born confident, but may have had it chipped away little by the negative self-beliefs you've picked up over the years. If you're looking for the heightened energy, clarity of thought, and the feeling of being more alive that comes from self-confidence, you can rediscover it by paying attention to your dreams. Need some help doing this? Go to my website, thedreamcoach.net, and sign up for my complimentary dream discovery session. I can help show you how your dreams can help you return to the confident person you were always meant to be. Again, go to thedreamcoach.net. thedreamcoach.net.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Yes, welcome back to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, and we're talking about success in business with Nicky Billou. Well, Nicky, you were talking right before the break about being a thought leader and how that leads to success. But it also raises the basic question. Let's say you're somebody who hears, oh, it's better for me to turn my attention, an example of a coach, for instance, not just being a general coach, but being a thought leader in my field. How does one become a thought leader?
Well, that's a great question. Let me illustrate it with a story, if I may, of a couple of folks that we worked with. So there was a gentleman, unfortunately, he passed away last summer. He was such a cool fellow. His name was Carl Kramer. And Carl had been a senior vice president in a corporation. And about 3-4 years ago, he decided he was done with that, and he got into the world of becoming a business coach. So he called himself a peak performance business coach. So a nice fancy title. And Carl, as a senior vice president, made $300,000 a year plus bonuses. As a coach, he was making between $6,000 and $8,000 a month. So somewhere between $72,000 and $96,000 a year. Let's just say he made $80,000 a year as a coach, right? So it was a significant come down for him. And he came to us because he knew a fellow we'd worked with that we'd done incredible work for, and it just made 7 figures in his field. And so he said, look, I've heard about you. I want to talk to you. And, he started to work with us. And I said to him, okay, Carl, what do you do for people in business coaching? He says, well, I can help them deal with any business problem. And I was like, okay, Carl, you're trying to be all things to all people. It's not going to work. And I said, what are you really good at? And we really had to take him through an exercise. But the exercise was to help him see what types of problems he'd had some skill in solving. Because what is business after all? It's about solving problems for people. And that allows you to have the right to earn a profit, right? Problems, people, profit. That's the purpose of business. So the 3 Ps and a 4th P of purpose. So Carl said, okay, I'm really good at taking like near startups and helping them scale. That's kind of my shtick, my thing. I go, okay, that's great. I said, all right, so who do you want to work with? Some, business units and corporations? He said, God, no, don't want to do that ever again. I go, all right. So we started to look at who are some of the folks he'd worked with. So there's a little process I took him through to discover his ideal client. So first of all, who are the people that you enjoyed working with the most? Like you really enjoyed their company and the way the working relationship went. So we got clear on who some of those folks were. Who are the people that you got the best results for? So you really got good results for them. So we got a little clear on that. And then who are the people who pay you the best and are the easiest to transact with? Because you don't want to be dealing with people who are nickel and diming you in business, right? So we got clear on that. And what became clear is that the intersection of all three of those was lawyers who owned their own firm. So they were not partners and part of a larger firm. These were folks with a $500,000 to $2 million a year law practice who wanted to scale. So Carl took all of his messaging and said, I work with lawyers who own their own firms that are between this amount and this amount of revenue. And my brand promise to you is we'll double to tenfold the size of your practice. Pretty nice brand promise, right?
Yes.
So anyways, we also noticed that he was undercharging clients and he was charging everybody monthly. So we said, we want you to start selling year-long coaching programs. So he's like, okay, I can do that. So he started to do that. He went from making $6,000 to $8,000 a month to $40,000 a month. And he was working less. So he was working 40 hours a week before. Now he's working 22 hours a week. And he was making 40 grand a month. So just shy of $500,000 a year. That's incredible. That's how he became a thought leader. He started to look at his past experience, understand what he was able to do to be of service to people today. Cool.
So in other words, it's finding your niche and really drilling down to discover what that is, and then using that as the basis to become the thought leader in that niche. Is that right?
Well, yes. And here's the other thing. He discovered he could do this with lawyers right now, right? And he discovered that he had a propensity to work with people who are interested in scaling near startups, smallish businesses to a higher level. But a funny little thing happened for Carl. He discovered there were other groups of people that had similar problems to these lawyers. So he could actually create a whole different set of offerings. This is part of what makes you a thought leader. It's not about doing one particular thing for one particular group of people. That's just being a specialist, okay? I want you as a thought leader to be somewhat of a generalist, but not in your marketing messaging. Your marketing messaging needs to be specialized. You follow me? But your ability to take what you do and do it for multiple groups of people, no, it doesn't need to be. So as an example for myself, I've done a lot of work with coaches and consultants. You know, we work with a couple hundred of them, and we've done really, really good things for them to help them be seen as thought leaders and grow their practices. But a funny thing happened. We realized that there's a lot of founders of companies that really could benefit from being seen as a thought leader, because that would allow them to attract more clients. It would allow them to attract better employees who like beg to work with them, and it will allow them to attract investment if they're seen as the Steve Jobs or the Elon Musk of their space. So we started to do that. And last week we did a program for a small Austin, Texas-based software recruitment firm, $17 million a year company. So, you know, definitely a different market than coaches and consultants. But man, was it fun to work with her. And we really want to do a lot more of these. So we've signed up a couple more people like this, but ideally, I'd love to have 100 clients like her. You know, it would be fantastic. 100 clients like her, first of all, would be $1 million just from the basic work that we do with them. And then from our ability to do other work for them, upsells and so forth, we can turn that into probably another $3 to $5 million a year. And for a two-man company or one man and one woman company, that's a great thing.
Oh, it certainly is. So would you say then that your techniques would work for pretty much any kind of entrepreneur out there?
As long as they have some level of expertise and they have had some level of longevity in their business. So if you're absolutely brand new to everything, you can't call yourself a thought leader. There's no integrity in that. You know what I mean? But, Debbie, you and I, as an example, we've been around the block. We weren't born yesterday. We've done what we've been doing for a while. You could absolutely be a thought leader, 100%. But if you were a 23-year-old kid out of college and going, I'm going to be a thought leader in an area, well, maybe possible, depending on what you've been focusing your first 23 years in life in. But a 23-year-old who says to adults that are twice their age, hey, I'm going to become a marriage counselor, maybe not. Maybe you're not quite there yet. You're going to have to win some experience the hard way through life.
But do you have any advice for the person who is just starting out and, wants to grow their business?
Absolutely, I do. So first and foremost is you ought to do some deep inner work on why you're in business. You ought to do some deep inner work on who are the people you want to help in your business. Because as we said, business is about helping people and solving problems for them. And then you ought to get out there and start doing that work. I wrote a book about it called The Thought Leader's Journey. It's for people getting started in business newly. And it goes through a lot of these points that we talk about. But you're not going to become a thought leader overnight if you have no experience. You're going to need some experience.
And then go from there. Well, Nicky, is there a final thought you'd like to leave for our audience?
Yes. Last 3 years have been tough on all of us. And you might be in a place in your life right now where you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't know if I can thrive. I just want to survive. And I'm here to tell you, you absolutely can thrive. And if you are in a space where you want a path forward to thriving, reach out to me. Go to my website, ecircleacademy.com/appointment. I'll offer a free coaching call with anybody who says they came from this podcast. And we'll have a chat about how you can thrive even in crazy times like today.
Oh, that is wonderful advice. Thank you for that. Well, thank you for speaking to us on Dream Power Radio today, Nicky.
Debbie, thanks for having me on the show. God bless your heart. You're amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. So are you. We've been speaking with entrepreneur and business motivator, Nicky Billou. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. If so, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector-Weissman saying, dreams, everybody.
You've been listening to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman. For more information on Debbie or to sign up for her newsletter, go to dreampowerradio.com. This has been Dream Power Radio.